You know, this has to be one of the most painful podcasts I have done in a long time. Transformers The Last Night is next.
It has been said through the ages, without sacrifice, there can be no victory. Two species at war. One flesh, one metal. Optimus Prime has left us. 100 billion trillion planets in the cosmos. You want to know, don't you? Why they keep coming here.
Welcome back to Fantasy Picks Movie Edition, the podcast that takes a look at overhyped big-budget tentpole movies that failed at the box office or with critics. In some occasions, they succeeded with both, but not the hardcore fans. I'm your host, Robert Mota. Joining me today, I have Frank Rodriguez and Mark Kirkman. How's it going, guys?
Pretty good. Great.
Awesome. Also, I just want to let everybody know out there, remember that you can find us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Podcasts, or whichever of your podcast delivery choice is. We're also on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and soon to be on Patreon. So that would be pretty cool there. I'm still trying to figure that out. We are part of also the Pirate Core Entertainment Network, where you can find other podcasts such as Panels of Pixels, which Mark is a part of, and Adrenaline Cinema, also part of Mark. And by the way, we also started a Facebook group called Movies That Failed at the Box Office or with Critics. So for those of you out there who want to join us, we could have communication there. We could talk about movies. We are going to do our polls there for our drafts. So you can see, you can hear which is the one that you like, and then you can actually go vote there. So pretty cool. It's our little community for all fans to talk about these failed movies, or a place to give us feedback and stuff like that for the podcast or any of the episodes we post. So yeah. So today we're going to talk about Transformers The Last Night. It's so hard for me to get that out. Yeah, it's just one of those movies where it's a painful movie, and it just, oh man. So
it's 2 hours and what, 38 minutes?
Oh my God, I think so. Over 2.5 hours.
Yeah,
over 2.5 hours, which is
an hour too long for the movie.
An hour too long. Yeah, exactly. But you know
I'm
what?
more generous. I figure about a half hour. Come on.
Yeah.
But you know what? Before we get into Transformers, before we get into that movie, a little history on the Transformers itself. So the original Transformer line originated from a collaboration between two companies, Hasbro in the United States and Takara Tomy in Japan. Hasbro had acquired the rights to produce and distribute the toys based on the Takara line and Micro Change toy line, something like that, right, which featured transforming robots. So these toys were rebranded and incorporated into the Transformer line, giving birth to the iconic Autobots and the Decepticons, which launched in 1984. At the same time, launching the iconic animated television series, which we all loved. Mm-hmm. So the series became a global freaking phenomenon, which was freaking awesome. So expanding beyond the small screen, the franchise made a groundbreaking leap to the big screen in 2007 with the release of Transformers the movie, which was directed, of course, by Michael Bay, who directed the first 5 movies. So we're going to get into him very quickly. So the live-action film series introduced a new generation of Transformers, blending the cutting-edge, visual effects and explosion and action and all that stuff. The movie was followed by Transformers Revenge of the Fallen, Transformers Dark of the Moon, Transformers The Last Night, which is the one that we're going to be talking about, and Bumblebee. And then the new one coming out soon, which is going to be coming out, I believe, in 2 weeks. Well, from this recording in 2 weeks, I believe it is in the second week of June on Thursday. I forgot the actual date. And that's going to be called Transformers Rise of the Beast. So that's going to actually have the Beast Wars Maximals, or whatever they call them.
Yeah.
So that should be hopefully it's pretty good. I'm excited about it because it's the same people who did Bumblebee. It is not Michael Bay and his merry men of people out
ruining movies after the first movie.
Exactly. So here's the thing, guys. When I grew up watching the Transformers, first of all, I remember the toys. That was the first thing I remember. Right. So I remember the toys. Frank and I always had these discussions, which I always find I find it funny now, but it was one of those things where I wanted the toys. My parents were the type that they really felt they should not get me exactly what I wanted because they didn't want to spoil me. That was their.
Don't tell me you got a knockoff.
That was their. Oh, I used to get some crazy knockoffs sometimes.
I got a knockoff of a Voltron once, and I was so
upset when
I was a kid.
I got a knockoff.
It was all cars.
Yeah, I remember I got a knockoff one time of a what was it of a $6 million man or something like that, and it just wasn't the same thing. Like it was always something. Like they go, well, it's because first of all we couldn't afford those things. And second of all, I don't blame them,
Same here.
Yeah, I don't blame them, but it's like we couldn't afford those things, so we got you this, and it's like, oh, but as a kid, you don't understand that.
No, you don't. Or you asked Santa for that as a little kid, and that was my experience. Like it was Voltron. I was like, what is this?
Exactly.
I'm like,
was it the one that's all the little cars?
Yeah, it just like reminds me of that Schwarzenegger movie, Jingle All the Way, where you got the one it speaks, and it falls apart. It speaks a different language.
So I remember that my parents were like, well, we couldn't afford that, whatever, and they always would get me the alternative to something like that or something completely different, something that I know that I didn't want. But I remember Frank and I one time in high school we got into this discussion about it, and he was talking about all the toys that he used to get. And his parents would get him all the toys that he wanted. And I was like, you son of a bitch.
You had that? I still have it.
I actually do still have a lot of toys.
I resented Frank so much because I remember one time I was talking to him about it's this little vehicle. Was it called Big Track or something? Yeah.
I was just going to say, you're talking about Big Track?
Yeah, that you kind of like, you go ahead and you punch in some number, you program it to go around the house and stuff like that.
And it would go around the house.
I remember I wanted that toy so damn bad. So I went ahead and measured our entire house because I was getting ready for this thing in Christmas. And what did I get? I got some cheap little, I don't know, what was it? I got some toy soldiers, some green toy soldiers, and I forgot what else it was. And I was like, oh, okay.
Shit is this?
What the fuck is this? So I remember that girl. So I told Frank, I was like, yeah, I remember, I wanted this. And he goes, oh yeah, I got that. And I was like, you son of a bitch.
I had that. I had the little cart that it came with that you could put in and it would dump things out.
Yep, I remember that. Holy crap.
So when Transformers first came out, of course, the transforming robots were pretty cool and stuff like that.
Yeah.
I saved up some money to get a few. And as I got older, especially through high school, I was able to acquire a few of them. Never was able to acquire Optimus Prime, but I was able to acquire, what was it? Not Rodimus Prime, but was it Ultra Magnus, which was basically Optimus Prime, but white. That's
white
what it was.
And blue.
White
and blue. Practically the exact same thing.
Yeah, it was exactly the same thing. And then, of course, there was I did have Bumblebee, which was part of a line of Transformers, of mini Transformers.
Yes.
So I remember having Bumblebee, and I think, if I'm not mistaken, it's probably somewhere in a box that I might have him. I might still have the original Bumblebee on that.
Oh,
Other
wow.
than that, yeah, I had quite a few because I was able to, like, especially in high school, it's like I had a job. I was like, fuck it, I'm gonna buy them, whatever. Or and I got to buy a few for
Jack
myself.
LaLanne.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I used to work for Jack LaLanne, which was owned by Bally's Health Club. But I have fun with them. And it turns out when you look into the history of this toy line, they never started as Transformers, or at least the story of Transform. This was just a line of toys that could transform, but they didn't have a story behind each character. It was just a Japanese line of, hey, this toy could transform this toy can transform to this. And it was Hasbro who's the one that gave it the story, of Cybertron and, coming to Earth. And that's when they made the entire
story itself.
The entire story, but also the entire cartoon series.
And the comic book. There was a 4 miniseries run by Marvel. So it coincided with not just the cartoon, but with Marvel Comics exclusively.
Right. But that came after it became very famous. Like I think it was after like the first season or something like that.
No, it was after the first. Yeah, you're right. After the first season and after the initial toy line.
Correct.
And
that's what I'm saying. Once it became like really famous and it became like really like, popular, I know Marvel got into it just like they did with everything. So they did that with G.I. Joe. They did that with the Micronauts. They did that with.
They did Transformers versus G.I. Joe. So.
Yes. As a matter of fact, that was very famous.
They still do those comics now on, I think, Dark Horse.
As a matter of fact, the Transformer movies at one point, they were thinking of putting the G.I. Joes in there. Yes. Which would have been that would have been cool. I think they were like, all right, sure.
That might have saved those G.I. Joe movies
and save part. Well, I don't know if it's going to save the Transformers.
The second one was better than the first, but the thing is that they are still trying to push for that third movie.
Yeah, and that would be definitely a subject for another time because that's part of my list of bad movies. But so yeah, I mean, I grew up with these toys. I liked them. I thought they were fun.
Yeah.
To I always found, especially the Japanese toys, because that was the one thing that I think all of us experienced was that American toys and Japanese toys were so different. Japan had toys in a whole different level that we
Shogun
even
Warriors,
till this day.
Yeah, a whole bunch.
Yeah, even till this day, Japan makes toys that really are not meant for little kids. I would say they're meant for collectors.
Yes.
And the genius behind the transformation was great because from one vehicle to another, they figured out we're going to make the transformation from one vehicle to another one very different. Instead of it just say, hey, you pull this part here, pull this part here, you get the legs, you get the head, and it's the same for every different type of vehicle. Every vehicle had a different way that it transformed, which was really cool.
Unlike the GoBots.
Unlike the GoBots, which was, I believe the GoBots were what, American?
Yeah.
Yeah, it was
right.
idea.
And that was right. And that's the problem. The problem was that toy makers back then, especially in the 80s, they just did not have that type of engineering the way the Japanese did. I mean, it was just not there. But I had a fun time with them. I loved them. Even till this day, I mean, there's a YouTube channel that I see that has
one that he does the new ones that he did. Like
there's some new ones. There's some new ones in Japan that holy shit. Yeah. I mean, we're talking about insane transformations, and I'm talking about huge. Yep. So yeah, I mean, even till this day, they're freaking beloved everywhere. It's just that these movies, when the first movie came out, fucking fantastic, but as the movies started to go along, we're like, what is going on? But believe it or not, Transformers made, I believe it was like $700 million. The second one, Revenge of the Fallen, that made about 900 million or 800 million. But here's the kicker, man. What was it? Dark of the Moon. And what was the other one? I'm missing. Age of Extinction.
Yeah, there was
That's
five.
The one. Yeah, there was five. I didn't
Before
mention
Bumblebee.
Right, I didn't mention the other one. So Dark of the Moon and Age of Extinction, they both made $1.2 billion each, which was crazy. And then we get to last night. And last night made, I think, 600 million, which was the lowest out of all of them. But I mean,
that's why it was the last.
Yeah. So I'll ask you guys. I mean, what did you guys? I mean, when you grew up with Transformers, what was your experience with that? With the whole IP there?
Oh wow, I like you, Rob. I always wanted everything like that, and just like you with Frank, I always had somebody who had a friend that had everything before I did, or they had everything you couldn't get. Transformers was like the one thing I think my parents got right, other than G.I. Joe, because I had a lot of the vehicles and stuff for G.I. Joe. They pushed more for the G.I. Joe stuff.
Right.
But I did get an Optimus Prime. But coming, and of all things too, but if you look at the toys now in comparison to what we had then, the original Optimus Prime was metal. To transform it, we had metal parts. Now the new Transformers that are out are all plastic. They fall apart and break.
Yeah.
But I was able to get that. But my mother being the oldest in her family and having her youngest sister, you know, who is divorced, and my cousins didn't have a father, a lot of my toys as I got older became hand-me-down. So they went to my cousin John. So now those toys are long gone.
Wow.
It's like, oh, you don't need these anymore. But I kept my Joes of all things. I kept my Joes. I still have like my original Joes.
Me too.
But I just have like a case for the figures. I don't even have the vehicles. But I was able to get a lot of the other stuff. But the funny thing too is during the time, I guess later on, I used to go to it was a small drugstore, but as a kid we used to go get there. You go there, they had some knockoff toys and stuff like that. I got a knockoff Bumblebee. I got a knockoff. What was the cassette of the Jaguar?
Oh, Soundwave.
Oh, Ravage.
Ravage.
Oh, Soundwave. There was Soundwave, and then there was who was the cassette player.
Yep. Right. Which I didn't have, but they had small knockoff ones that worked perfectly, and these were metal too.
Right.
But this was a knockoff company, so I got those for like $5 a piece, but they're metal. I think I still have the bird and the Jaguar from that, which is so funny because they were so small and it came in like a little cassette thing. But I had like a few of the figures, but not everything. Mostly my pride and joy was Optimus. Because it was metal. It came with the big the container in the back.
Right.
And it opened up and it had a little dish in the back and everything else. The stairs came down. He would transform. But now if you look at a lot of toys nowadays, like even a new Optimus Prime, they have one that is mechanical and it will transform on voice command.
Oh yeah, I saw one on CNET.
Yeah,
and it was. I mean, it's a freaking big one, but like, but it actually does transforms. You could actually move it around and drive it and stuff like that, right? But then all of a sudden, it transforms itself.
Yep,
and it has a whole bunch of voices and stuff like that. I thought that was really cool.
Yeah, my experience is basically the toys, the cartoon, and the comics, and I collected the comics up until issue 36, I believe. So I still have the original 4. Along with a few other comics from that time, because I was Marvel and I collected everything that was Marvel, that G.I. Joe and all that. But I still have those, and those are hard to come by, from what I'm told. A lot of people are having a hard time to come with because it was supposed to be a 4-issue miniseries, and then it just continued on from there.
Right.
So there are like certain images on the like the pages, like the cover art of like Shockwave when he came into place. Even on the cartoon, but Shockwave was introduced, but they had this huge cover, which was great because you got to see, Shockwave on it.
Right. Cool. How about you, Frank? I mean, what was your? I know what you're gonna say, but go ahead.
I actually no, I'm gonna surprise you.
Oh, okay.
So, I was into the cartoon. I was into the comics. I was well aware of the Transformers. For whatever reason, I never had one of the toys.
Really?
Not one of the originals. I actually didn't. I I really did want like Optimus Prime, but for whatever reason, I never got around to actually getting it because
Wow.
I'm a little older at the time when this is coming out, and I'm like,
Yeah, you guys
eh.
are older than I am, so yeah. At the time, I was still a little kid.
Hey
I was
man,
like, it'll never be any Micronauts.
I still got it. Hey man, let's not talk about Micronauts. I'm still traumatized about those, but we'll talk about
Really?
that some other time.
My parents didn't want to get me. My mother didn't want me to get the Micronauts. My father actually got them because he would see them in Chinatown when he worked in
Yeah.
New York City as a cop, and he was like, "Oh, this is the new rage. This is the new rage." I didn't ask for them. They were on the commercial on the TV, but I was like, "Okay." But you could see they were clear. They were small. The
Yeah.
reason
Yeah.
why my mother didn't want those was the choking hazard.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Oh, my parents didn't care about that.
Like, oh, come on. If he
My parents didn't care
survives,
about that. No, I actually had a
he
whole
can do
bunch of
anything.
I had a whole bunch of Micronauts, and then I remember that when I was small, I went to a hospital for surgery, and I had my Micronauts with me, of course, because you're in the hospital. I wanted to play, and I kept them in a drawer on a tray. And then on the day that I left, I remember I left and I went home and I went, "Oh my God, I left my Micronaut." And so they called my mom calls the hospital, and there was a kid that was next to me. And from what they say, it's like, "Oh yeah,
Yeah,
those
they're
are not
gone.
here." And I was like, I was crying, I remember, because I lost all my Micronauts. And until this day, I believe that freaking kid took all my Micronauts, man. I hope if it was a choking hazard, I hope he choked on him.
Wow.
I'm just kidding, man. But
Well,
yeah.
So
if they were the
now that we've
Shogun
gone ahead,
Warriors, they would have been way too big
oh
for
my
you to
God,
Way too
lose.
big. Yeah, I remember those. But yeah, the Micronauts is the only IP that I know that, or the only toy line that I know that there's a good chance you'll never see a movie out of that, because whoever owns the rights to that has said that he does not want to sell it. And if they're going to buy it from him to, the rights,
Yeah.
he want experience with the cartoon. Because in the cartoon, that's where I really started loving
right?
this
Yeah.
IP. I mean, so
I
much.
mean, I would
The
go home
theme
every
song.
day and just be like, "Yo, Transformers, more than meets the eye. Let's go,
Yeah, it was always
make
that
it happen."
afternoon after school show that you would go watch. That
Right.
it's like that between that, you got G.I. Joe, you got Thundercats at that point too, He-Man. It followed in that long conjunction of shows that hit when kids got home from school around four
You'd be,
o'clock
Right.
after they
like watching
supposedly
it.
did their homework.
Yeah, you'd be like watching it. You'd be like, "Oh, Starscream, you rapscallion, you."
Why does he sound like Cobra Commander?
He did, didn't he?
Well, it's the same actor,
It's probably.
voice
I was gonna
actor,
say it's the same. Same.
who passed away years ago.
Oh, did he really?
Yeah, it's the same voice actor. He passed away years ago, but we still have
They
Optimus
always did
Prime.
that. Like these voice actors would work on all these different shows.
Yeah,
Right. Yeah, no, I remember loving it, but I remember when I got introduced more to the Japanese anime stuff, and then I started looking at
Right.
Transformers. I'm like, why does this look way better than the Transformer stuff? But again, in Japan, animation is a whole different animal compared to the way it is here.
yes.
So I'll go over very quickly the plot on this movie. So the plot of the movie is it's the fifth installment of Transformers live action film series directed by Michael Bay. So the movie continues the epic battle between the Autobots and the Decepticons while delving deeper into the hidden history of Transformers on Earth. We'll talk about that too. So in this installment, the world is on the brink of destruction as Optimus Prime, the leader of the Autobot, discovers a dark secret that could threaten both the Earth and Cybertron. So here's the problem with this movie.
You said that
Huh?
there's one problem. Hang on.
So let's start with this, because before we go in on how bad this movie, for the first time, I mean, I've been doing that now this for what, like a year and a half with all these different movies, and we always find a way to kind of say, okay, so what if we changed this character, and what if we did this, and what if we did that?
Yeah.
This was one of the first movies that I said, it's hard to change a story of a movie where the other films are all so inconsistent that how the hell you have to go back and fix those movies in order to try to get to number 5 and have something that is actually good. Because there's no freaking way that you can actually say, okay, so let's change the plot, let's change this, because it's still going to be disconnected from the other 4 movies.
Right.
So in order for you have to go back to the first movie, look at what they did there, and then the second, third, fourth, and fifth all should have been continuations where each one respected what came before. These movies were not that. so
you have to be the Flash. Go travel back in time, fix those movies, get it on its right path, but make sure they are set.
Transformers flashback. There we go.
It's like, literally, it's like you have to go back in time or do the Superman thing, just like go spin the Earth round and round and round.
Oh my God, yeah, no, exactly. But it's just that bad where I tried my best to kind of go, so how do I actually do a fantasy pick? And we will in a moment, because at this point, what we're gonna do is we're just gonna do a fantasy pick out of the fucking thin air. Yeah. Because you know what? That's what they did. But maybe what we come up with might be better. I don't know. We'll see about that. But the thing is that how do you take a movie and start replacing characters which honestly, they were all horrible. All of them were horrible. And I don't mean that as horrible actors, because fuck, Anthony Hopkins is a fucking thespian. I mean, he's a phenomenal actor.
Yes.
And to be wasted in this movie kind of sucks. And there are other good actors in this movie. It's just the comedic stuff was just horrible. I mean, there was just a lot of bad, what I would say.
Totoro came back again, and he plays the typical comedic Totoro that he always is in these movies and any other film.
Right.
And, the one thing I was waiting for was the Big Lebowski to come out.
Yeah, exactly.
Which they actually did a sequel to, by the way.
I know.
Totoro, I forget, what was it called? Jesus or something like that? Or I don't know.
Right. So, tell you what. So, I mean, here's the cast. So the cast, I mean, because we're talking about the cast. So the cast on this was Mark Wahlberg, which came out in Age of Extinction. And then there's Josh Duhamel, who came out from the very beginning as William Lennox. Stanley Tucci as Merlin, which in the last one, he's the head of some big corporation. No, not the head of a big corporation. What was he? In Age of Extinction, he was like how can I say, like some type of Steve Jobs, persona in Age of Extinction.
I haven't watched them in a long time, so I don't
know. Okay. So yeah, Age of Extinction, they were talking about, Transformium, what makes the Transformers actually, which is something that they completely to even touch upon, in this movie. But, and that's how they were going to make their own Transformers. So, of course, Stanley Tucci was playing a very eccentric type of billionaire, pretty much, exactly like Steve Jobs, because everything was about design and how things should look and the aesthetics of things. Here, he plays Merlin. Anthony Hopkins plays Sir Edmund Burton. He is part of the Witwicky,
which kind of is like a throwback to
the first 3, right? Exactly.
Kid.
Which we'll get into that. And then there's Laura Haddock, her name is Vivian Wembley. I guess she's an Oxford professor in the movie. And then there's Isabella Moner, which is the little girl. Her name is Isabella in the movie. I did not like that character, but that's just me. Of course, John Turturro was in it. And of course, Glenn Morshower, who played General Morshower. I didn't know that they used his real last name.
Did we mention Marky Mark?
Yeah. Mark Wahlberg.
Okay.
Cade.
All right.
Yeah. Yeager, the mechanic.
Yeah, I just didn't say his character's name, which was Cade Yeager. So this movie, believe it or not, it had some accolades.
What?
Yeah, it did. Well,
Razzies?
it was nominated for 9 Razzies, and that's it.
Okay, thank you.
I was gonna say.
All right, it was named
one MTV award for bad movie.
Not even that. It was just Razzies. I mean, it was just bad. So which I find funny. So what's our thoughts on these characters? You know, like
Honestly, like Demel is going to be the one that's been around since the very beginning of the
Right.
series.
correct.
Same thing with Totoro. So you have those standalone characters that are be legacy that are going to be throughout the series. Wahlberg came in from the previous film, so it's like they all wanted to hear him go, "It's a transformer,"
Yeah.
with the typical Boston accent.
I think I just found a transformer.
And Stanley Tucci out of the blue, but Tucci probably was just like, "I'll do this for fun."
Yeah, exactly.
And Hopkins, I felt, well, he was kind of pushed in. He probably needed some like weed money because he loved to smoke his weed and get a little high.
I don't know. I mean, I was looking into some of his stuff. I mean, he's as of I think this year, he's actually 47 years sober. Yes, because
I
I
was
guess.
just joking about.
Oh, I don't know. No, because you and I were discussing that before. That you were saying that he had, I guess,
He had
some
addiction
substance.
problems.
He had a substance abuse, but that was like 47 years ago. Because I was like, what made him do this movie? I mean, look, when
The
you
money.
watch,
Somebody got some 47-year-old pictures of him getting high. That's what it is.
No, money. I
Money,
think
man.
literally it's probably the money. They probably threw money at him. Hey,
Yeah.
you have, and that would be it. Why did they get Nimoy to be a voice as one of
Unicron.
well,
Yeah.
he was the voice of how you call it Unicron in the
animated
You know
movie?
what? You know what? We didn't touch upon the animated series. I mean, the animated movie that came out in the
Movie, right.
movies, which
In
was
'86.
yeah, which was so freaking great. I mean, great soundtrack.
Here to be stupid.
Yeah, amazing soundtrack, and it actually was animated pretty well for the time. I mean, it had
And it had
you know,
one curse word for a PG film.
yeah, it did. Well, it only said "ah shit," I think, or something.
Yeah,
like
but at that time, that was huge back in '86.
that was huge because we never got it. It was like, did he just say shit? But it was actually a very good movie. And of course, it had no, actually, what was it? Leonard Nimoy was not Unicron, he was Galvatron.
Really? I don't remember.
Oh,
that.
right. Yeah.
Yeah, he was
Okay.
Galvatron. Unicron was Orson Welles.
Orson Welles. Yes,
Right,
you're right.
right.
Yep.
So, but they got some good voice actors on this. So, like, that was a movie that we're like, holy crap. So, this is what Transformers can actually be, which I thought was really cool. So, but getting back to this, like you were saying, like Mark Wahlberg, I always thought he was not the right character for this movie
No,
or
he
the
wasn't.
last movie.
No.
It was just, I think that was just kind of a really bad choice when it came to that. I don't know. It's just you go from, and I think honestly, I think what's the character?
Sam Witwicky.
Yeah, what's the actor? Shit,
Wiki,
Shia
Shia
LaBeouf.
Shia
Shia LaBeouf.
LaBeouf. So I think Shia LaBeouf or LaBeouf or whatever, I think he actually did a pretty good job on the first one.
Yeah.
I think it was pretty good. You watch the movie now, and there's some cringe-worthy moments in there. Because Michael Bay being Michael Bay and how he likes to portray women.
True.
But it's still for me a fun movie. Right. The second one, that was still fun and stuff like that, but it was always about him and the Transformers.
Right.
Then all of a sudden and the third one too. But then all of a sudden it's like Mark Wahlberg, and you're like, that just seems like so off. I don't know what it was.
Why not find some unknown actor to just take over for Shia?
Right.
You can be like, the part of Sam Witwicky will now be played by.
Yeah, it's they were trying to get that kid character or kid-oriented style character who is, because they're trying to replace the character that we got in the cartoon. If you think about it, who was the
Spike.
kid? Spike.
Right.
The kid Spike in the cartoon led the way, and he needed somebody to represent that. Now they realized that with Shia LaBeouf, he's getting to the point where it's like they've been around for a while. He's too older. Let's get somebody else. Let's not make him a kid. Let's make him some doofus mechanic.
Yeah. So the biggest question is, so what happened to this movie? So one of the things was like Michael Bay should have stopped at 3 movies, I think. And as a matter of fact, the studio kept pushing for more money kept being, shoved to his face. Even Michael Bay was actually quoted saying that he was talking to Steven Spielberg, and Steven Spielberg was like, you probably should have stopped at 3. And he goes, yeah, I should have stopped at 3. but they just kept pushing money towards my way, so that's why I did it. And I was like, that's sad. And I mean sad. Look, somebody gives me fucking millions of dollars, I'll make a Transformer movie. Don't get me wrong, no matter how bad it is, but
do it right.
That's but for a director who already made 3 that were epic in the sense of, with the money it made, he should have just said, guys, we got to stop or get somebody else to do this. This movie also suffered from 6 editors. 6 fucking editors was doing this movie.
Wow.
Normally, a typical movie usually has anything from 1 to 3 editors. This thing has 6 editors. That's why this movie, when you watch it, is so all over the place. It's so confusing to people. They'll be like, what's going on?
The other editor didn't know where the other editor left off, so they
probably I don't know how that worked, but when you have like so many people editing like maybe different scenes, that's why maybe some scenes look different. Too many cooks. Too many cooks in the kitchen. So
the movie, if it was unedited, it was already 2 hours and 38 minutes long.
Yeah.
What was the original runtime? 6 to 7 hours?
Oh, who knows, man. And of course, the inconsistent changes in the origin from one movie to the other,
right.
Which I think that was the biggest thing. So, guys, is there any way to make this movie any better?
Well, all right, let's come
Flashpoint. Exactly what Mark said.
Flashpoint.
Flashpoint. Oh yeah, go back in time and fix everything from the very beginning, from the first movie on, right?
Yeah.
It's that would be if we had the Flash or we got Superman to do that, it would be amazing. But my recommendation would have been, all right, get rid of Quintessa, get rid of that character all completely.
Correct.
Get rid of the Arthurian lore.
Absolutely.
Of all that. If you want to invoke and bring in the biggest thing that they wanted to about Unicron, just put it, just like I stated before, make it the Bermuda Triangle, make it look like he was there, and that way he forms outside. So it's kind of like a Star Killer base, where in Star Wars, where that one particular movie where they've had every Death Star known to man for every movie, for every Star Wars movie that was there, but in that one particular movie, it's called Star Killer Base, and they put it in a planet, so you can make it so that maybe Unicron had fallen to Earth billions of years ago, like before the war on Cybertron, but the Transformers, all the Decepticons and the Autobots are still at war. The army is still working with them at that point, but they get a disturbance in the water, and then the Decepticons are going there to convert that particular Unicron because it doesn't have allegiance to anything. So it's a war amongst the Autobots and the Decepticons, and then Unicron fully coming and taking over. So it's everybody at this point, because the Decepticons and the Autobots still need a home, which is Earth, and they work with the humans to stop Unicron from taking over the Earth and becoming Unicron.
My thought was that, so you remember in the last movie where Optimus Prime flies into space saying, "I'm coming for you." I think, because if you recall, Cybertron was coming in through some kind of portal or something like that. Part of Cybertron. That's the pillars.
That's what I was gonna say. The pillars were
right. The pillars were trying to, like, what is it? A phase in or what is it? A Cybertron. I think my thought was, what you could have done was, hey, what if that caused the disaster of Cybertron, and Quintessa, being so pissed off, decides to align herself with Unicron to come and destroy Earth. So when Prime goes out there and sees what's happening, he comes back to Earth and says, guys, we really fucked up, because this Quintessa bitch is now aligned with Unicron. And I'm sure all the Transformers and even the fucking Decepticons, I was like, whoa, Unicron? No one has seen him for fucking millions of years. And of course, that's when everybody's like, well, who the fuck is Unicron, or whatever it is. And then finding a way to somehow stop Unicron. And Unicron could have been after 5 movies,
Big
you
bad.
could have introduced Unicron in that way, and people would have been like, "Holy shit, that would have been great." As opposed to, what the fuck do you mean the Earth is a Unicron?
That's true.
That was
Yeah.
lazy fucking writing. I
Yeah.
think that would have been the perfect time to go, okay, it's time to fucking bring in Unicron.
And to
And
see the as it transforms in space above Earth and trying
Right.
to consume it.
yeah, or something, whatever it is. I mean, shit, fucking get rid of I don't know. Let's say it fucking consumes Mars, right? So you don't consume Earth yet, but let's say that in one
Jupiter.
scene, it shows it like all of a sudden it just chomping down on Mars and how it's destroying Mars.
Yeah.
And Earth going, holy shit, what do we do? And of course, then the Transformers and Decepticons have to now pretty much team up together
Mhm.
and try to find. And you could even have, I would say, 2/3 of this movie outside, in space. You don't have to have it all on Earth. Look at fucking Guardians of the Galaxy. Doesn't fucking take place on Earth. It takes place, in different parts of, in different parts. So I think you could have done something like that and it still would have been effective, especially if you did it right and very creatively. It would have been, it's like, okay, you know what? The last 3 movies suck, but this actually, redeemed the last 3 shit that you fucking did. So, I mean, that's at least my take on it. What will you, how about you, Frank? Any thoughts on what you would have done?
I like the idea of having Unicron somewhere in the galaxy. You know what I'm saying? Like he's hiding as Pluto, not as Pluto, as Jupiter.
Uh-huh.
You know what I mean? Like there was a planet Jupiter, and he just came along and he was like, "Yeah, not no more. I ate that whole thing. I'm gonna pretend that I'm Jupiter, and some point in the future, I'm gonna just come alive and take this whole galaxy down. Right after I'm finished digesting this one, it's gonna take a couple of billion years, but once I'm done, Earth is mine."
Yeah, I don't know, man. Like I said, it's like they make it seem like Earth is like, why is Earth so special? And even Optimus Prime said at one point, he goes, out of every world in the universe, this is the only one where humans had allowed me to call it home. I'm like, that's bullshit. You haven't tried every fucking world in the universe. Stop it.
They
Okay,
just found
so
the first one where it's like, hold on, the
this
party
is the only
crashing.
one you've been to, so stop it. But the thing is that, yeah, you could have had something, where it's like Unicron is just chomping down on things and Quintessa being a bitch going, well, if these fuckers destroyed Cybertron, I'm
Well,
gonna
they
get
did.
all right. I'm gonna get Unicron to destroy them now, and being vengeful and being a vindictive bitch about it. So I think that would have been better. And characters, you could, okay, fine, you have a whole new set of characters, but don't have a redneck that's trying to be an inventor. And by the way, let's be honest, you have a Oxford professor. What's the problem with that? First of all, she is this PhD professor, but yet she doesn't know how to drive a park, and she's looking for a man. I don't know why. Then they partner her off with him. Isn't like she way out of his league? I mean, you would think she's smart enough to go, no fucking way, man. How the fuck am I gonna end up with this guy? Like,
Right.
I don't know. That was just like a pairing that was just, come on, stop, guys. Stop.
It's like there are times when yes, you need to go ahead and have a strong female character, and
Yeah.
that was one of them. So
That have a
you
strong
got a
female
dumb
character.
cat, you got a dumb main actor. You add a really smart woman and put them
Right.
together.
But they took the smart woman and they didn't know how to use her. And in the end, it was more of a love interest
Watch the
for him.
freaking Mummy.
So
Brendan Fraser
but that was still a love interest. But she was a strong, the thing is
right.
that they didn't have to have that. They didn't have to have that. I mean, look at Bumblebee, right? So the kid wanted to be with the girl, and even towards the end, when he even tried to grab her hand, she goes, "Yeah, we're not there yet." Understand? It was like, no, dude, no, stop. Okay, this is all it is, and it worked. So honestly, I can't even come up with characters for this because every character I will replace with a completely different character. So I'm actually going to skip that. By the way, did I actually mention that this movie had a 16% on Rotten Tomatoes? That's
Yeah,
how
I saw
bad
that.
this thing is.
Yeah, and the totatometer.
Yeah. And audience
Tomatometer.
score was only 43%. So out of this movie, if we had to use anything for like a home theater demo, what would it be? What scene do you think that you could go, okay, listen, this movie's fucking horrible, really bad, but you got to watch this on my new home theater.
I really can't think
suggest
of
that.
actually a scene that would actually would feel comfortable.
The problem
as
is,
a
I
demo.
thought the same thing, and I was like, as I was watching it, and I had my home theater on, and I was like, there were some, decent scenes there, but I would be ashamed to tell people that I got this movie. I'm like, hold on. I got another movie for you. Hold on.
Yeah, hold on. No, I got another
Yeah.
one.
I
That'll
mean,
work.
again, there was some good sound design and there was some good areas, but it was it's just not interesting. No, I can't even do that. I can't even do that. That's how bad this fucking movie was. So, and again, you have, and I think that was the problem. The problem with this movie was one, you had a studio that got greedy and saw the numbers of Age of Extinction were 1.1 or 1.2 billion dollars, and they thought, let's make another 1.2 billion dollars. You had a director that at the end, I think he didn't care at all.
No, he
Honestly,
collected his money. He got
he
it.
collected his money. I think everybody in this movie was just doing it for the money at this point. But think about it. This is a movie that it just had no passion out of Michael Bay. Like Michael
Yeah,
Bay just
right.
went ahead off the rail. He went off the rails and just said, "Fuck it. I'm just gonna do crazy shit. This is gonna be my last one. I don't care." I think that was part of it. Yeah, again, you had writers that didn't probably understand the IP. I always go back to that. You
Yep.
don't if you can't respect the IP and what came before it and why it became a global phenomenon even before the first movie came out. Don't try to come up with some bullshit on your own and try to make it your own. No, if you don't know the IP, don't do that.
Mm-hmm.
Hire people that are passionate about this the same way fans are. And that is my thing that I
Or at
tell.
least somebody to script doctor the thing, like to look at it and go, you can have writers who have good ideas and don't know that much about the IP,
Right.
but you gotta have somebody who is willing to say to them, "That's a great idea, but let's fix it by doing this," and
Correct.
knowing how they can make those things better.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. I completely agree. Somebody that can just say, hey, kind of cool, but here's the
Right.
problem with that. The problem with that is that, first of all, the other movies already touched upon that. So we can't change that. One. Two, in the lore of Transformers, this is how it's supposed to be. Let's kind of keep it that way.
Yeah.
So it was very poorly executed. I think one, they didn't respect the IP. Two, I think again, Michael Bay just just kind of said, screw it. My last one. I'm getting paid a lot of money. I don't care anymore. It was lazy writing. It was, I believe, basically studio greed.
Yeah.
Trying to make it a huge event and bigger, better because they thought the other ones, since they did the same thing and made more money, they were going to make the money. And it turned
Well,
out that it was the lowest one that made it was the one that made the lowest money, even though it still made his money back, but it was the one that made that's I think what gave the studio we fucked up. And that's why I think Bumblebee then became the success it did, even though it didn't make as much money as those movies. But critically, when you look on Rotten Tomatoes, it's the one with the highest rating of all of them. It's like 90 something percent compared to everything else. So, anything else that you guys could think of,
So
that contributed to the failure of this movie?
not that I could
it's not
think
as
of.
good as Robot Jocks.
We're
I
not.
literally would watch Robot Jocks 10 times, then watch this movie again.
What was the movie with Hugh Jackman that I forgot?
Oh my
Real
God,
Steel.
Blue
I
Steel.
love that movie.
I love that movie too.
I think that's a great movie,
My
man.
friend Ben loves it. He loved it. Every time I say it's Rock'em Sock'em Robots, shut up.
Of course it
He
is.
wants to go to war, but I was like, dude, literally, that's what it is. Live action Rock'em Sock'em Robot.
It was fucking awesome,
It's
man.
Rocky with a robot.
Yeah. And you know what? They never called it Rock and Sock'em Robots.
No.
But that's exactly what it was. And in a way, if the director knew that that's what it was, and the writers, I have to say, they respected that and said, you know what, we're gonna make it into Rock'em Sock'em Robots.
Yeah.
So because honestly, let's be honest, a film called Rock'em Sock'em Robots probably would not make money.
No, I wouldn't.
You
no.
had to call it something else.
No.
That's like Hungry Hungry Hippos.
Yeah.
Try to do that movie,
Okay.
Hungry
Hungry
Hippos.
Hippos, no, but I know I'd run out to see Rock'em Sock'em Robots.
Yeah, the problem is that people right away was like, that's the most stupid name I've heard. But if it's like, what was it, like Battleship, right?
Oh, God.
Battleship.
Well, no.
So many
another-
people, even though that was a failure, and that is still part of our list of movies that we'll cover.
Oh, I know.
But Battleship, of course, is modeled after the game.
Supposed
Right?
to be.
No, right. It's supposed to be, right? And I even told certain people, I go, they're like, really? It's supposed to be that? Yeah, it's like, yes, it's
Yes.
modeled after that game. And as a matter of fact, the
little-
little pegs that you put into the ship, those were actually featured as some kind of like
It's a weapon.
ordnance or something like that. I forgot what it was.
Yeah.
And I was like, wait, those are the pegs. I saw it right away and I was like, oh, okay. At least they did that.
Yeah.
But that was a stupid movie that was just like, okay, whatever.
But would you watch that?
I watched that.
Instead of
I
this.
watched that 10 times more than I watched this.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I
Mainly
would.
for the fact of the action sequences, the CG, the effects. Just it could be goofy, but at
Yeah.
least it's entertaining
It's
to that
at
degree.
least it's entertaining. This had no entertainment value whatsoever. And by the
Yeah.
way,
Nope.
this movie, the little girl Isabella, I hated that character. I hate it. First of all, I'm one of those people that when they
You didn't
bring
like
in
Scooter? You didn't like
when,
Squeaks?
oh god, even worse. He should have been. They should have shot him in the first scene. Fucking disintegrated him. It's just the way they portrayed her. She was like, oh, she's this tough kid. She was, dude, real
Right.
Megatron, right? If this little girl comes like, I'm not afraid. Real Megatron should have just said, shoot the bitch and kill her right there.
Should have crushed her. Should have stepped on her.
Should have just stepped
That's
on
it.
her.
That's all you
and
have to
that's
do
it.
with them.
Ugh.
But it was just such a horrible character. But here's the whole thing. Part of the marketing was centered around her. So they made it seem like
Right.
she was going to be a big thing. Turned out that they
Barely
put-
in the movie.
yeah,
Barely.
they
Yeah.
just threw her to the side. So again, these are all again, this is the problem with this writing, which was like just horrible with that. Do you
Yeah.
realize that I, in my quest to try to see how I could make a better movie,
Mhm.
and believe it or not, like that thought that I just had about how I would do the movie that just came out of nowhere as we were talking about it. But I asked ChatGPT.
I knew you
Right.
were going to say ChatGPT.
Yes,
Oh my
I've been on a
That's your
ChatGPT.
Gary Oldman.
Yeah, I've been on a ChatGPT kick lately because you know what? The reason I bring it up is because of everything that Hollywood is going through right now and things like that. So,
Right.
and in some cases, I have messed around with that program and said, do a better version of this. And sometimes it'll spit out some stuff that you go, holy shit, that's much better. I tried 15 times to
Wow.
tell ChatGPT, make me a different version or a better version of this. And in every instant, it gave me garbage. It must have said, listen, dude, no, I just can't.
Garbage in,
improve on
garbage
this.
out.
I can't improve on this stupid shit. Like I gave you guys an example on the documents I gave you there.
Right.
And that was actually the best one it actually did out of all of them. That's how bad the other ones were. And again, don't get me wrong. I think AI done the right way could spit out some, decent stuff. I'm not going to say that it's going to spit out something better than, really good writers. But in some cases where I did go in there and say, hey, improve on this movie.
Yeah.
Or give me a different version of this movie. And all of a sudden, as I'm reading and I'm going, shit, that would have been way better than what we got. It could not even figure this one out. ChatGPT said, listen, no, I'm just going to give you this. This movie's that bad. So, yeah, I mean, that's pretty much, all I have for this movie. Unfortunately, again, this movie suffered from, I think, bad writing, greed from the studios, a director who just didn't give a shit anymore. And that was it. Yeah. And having bad cast or miscast movie and not taking advantage of some of the cast that they did have, like Anthony Hopkins, which made him seem senile and crazy. Yeah. So unfortunately, this is the movie we got. I wish I could have given you I wish I could give the audience out there a much better, hey, this is what we would have done and this is how I think it would have been better kind of thing. But it is what it is, man. I mean, this movie, I'm glad that they're making a new movie. I'm glad that Bumblebee turned out to be the way it is. Those were people that seemed like they really loved the character and they really took the time to actually do something that actually people will care about. It made a lot of people happy when they saw that Cybertron war where they were like, holy shit, finally somebody gets it.
Yep.
And I'm hoping the new movie, Beast Wars, continues that. And I wish the studio luck. I'm one of those people that I'm going to go see it the first day. And if it turns out to be shit, then I can reassure you that we will be reviewing it on this podcast. So,
yep.
All right, guys. So yeah, I mean that's my take on this movie, on this painful movie. And hopefully we'll never have to talk about it again. I don't know if you guys have any closing things on it.
No.
I don't have anything on the movie.
No. Okay.
But I will say we recently lost Ray Stevenson.
Yes.
But we also lost the other day Tina Turner.
Correct.
Yes. So give it up for Tina Turner, the queen of what they used to call it, the queen of rock and roll, man. Amazing artist, did some great songs, especially in the 80s. She was just so huge. She was in Mad Max, which she did great there.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, we lost an icon there. And do you know that her legs were insured for, I don't know, some crazy amount of money, like millions?
Couple million bucks, yeah.
Because I mean, she had a set of legs on her that were amazing. And every time she went to, concerts, she always used to, put on her outfits where she showed off her legs. But yeah, her legs were insured for millions of dollars. But yeah, we lost an icon. I mean, unfortunately, she wasn't doing anything or making any appearances. But yeah, we lost an icon there. And so, yeah, big shout out to her. So, all right, guys. Well, I want to thank you guys for coming on. I want to thank the audience for sticking with us and bashing this movie and hearing the pain in our voice.
Yeah.
Once again, as I tell everybody out there, we are not trying to be haters and we're not trying to just criticize a movie because, just like in the internet where people just decide that they want to criticize things, just be mean.
We're not cancel culture people.
Yeah, no,
that is not us.
No,
we're lying. Wait, let me just say this. If you think we're lying, watch the movie.
Yeah.
Right? Watch the movie and then come and tell us about it.
And then come and tell us what you think
the
movie should be about at this point.
So, yeah, we're not trying to be haters or anything like that. We criticize it because we are people who love this kind of stuff. We are people who want these movies to succeed. Every movie that I have actually reviewed on this podcast is a movie that I went to the movies, I went to the theater, and I wanted it to succeed. I wanted to come out of the movie theater going, holy shit, what a fucking awesome movie that was. I want to see it again and again and again. And it's that disappointment of how the fuck did you get this wrong?
Yes.
It's that kind of stuff. So it's not hating the movie. We're not here to hate the movie. We're not here to just bash the movie and look, the artists who make these movies, I know it's hard. It's a tough job. It's a tough job to do movies, period. I mean, there's so many people working in films and so many people collaborating in films that it's hard to, have so much information and so many people trying to,
movies get made by a committee.
So. Yeah, to mesh together to make something great. But, when the movie falls apart and it's because of stupidity behind the scenes, because executives and directors or writers not agreeing with things and all these things that can, make the movie go bad, it's disappointing for the audience out there, which we're the ones that basically pay for it, literally. And we're the ones that come out disappointed, and then we don't trust you. And we want to trust you. We want to make sure that, hey, so-and-so is making a new movie and they're doing this. It's like, absolutely, I'm going to go give money for that. because I trust them. They did a great job before. And the fact that when you don't do a good job, especially with a movie like this, which is so huge and so dear to people's hearts because we grew up on it, it's disappointing. It's highly disappointing for us, and it hurts. It actually hurts. So we're not being haters. We're just, we're just trying to find a way where when I review these movies, and that's what this podcast is about, it's just, hey, how do we make it better? Because we're fans. We're fan casting, as we always do. Yep. And, as everybody else does. And you know what? I want to hear from the audience. I want to hear from you guys. What will you guys do to make it better? What will you guys have changed? I definitely want to hear from you guys. So definitely,
I'm actually hating a little bit on Mark Wahlberg. All right, I'm sorry, but good vibrations only get you so much goodwill.
Is it only for this movie or for other things?
No, he's been good in other movies. The Departed, he's fantastic.
Yeah, no, it's
Sixth Sense.
No, let me tell you, he's become a better actor every year.
Oh yeah,
and stuff like that.
Absolutely. Wait, but he did this after he did all those good movies.
Yes, again,
that is true.
I think he looked at the check and went, "Fuck it,
I could buy a new wig.
Open up a Wahlberg."
Yeah, it's like you.
Hey, we're gonna get hate mail from Mark Wahlberg. Yo, I'm gonna come beat your ass, Mark. Okay, thank you.
You know what though? I would be scared of that just because I saw something with him the other day. He's shredded to hell.
Oh my god!
Yeah.
Even more than he was when he was younger.
That is true.
Beast. He's a fucking beast.
He's huge.
He gets up, I think, at 3 a.m. to start working out. Yeah, which is crazy.
Yeah.
So that's our show for today. And like I said, I love to hear from you guys. Let me know what you guys think. Let me know what you guys think of the the podcast. Are we doing a good job? Are we not doing a good job? What we like to see? What don't you like? The only way that I could improve that we could improve is by hearing from you guys. And also, if you do like the podcast, let other people know. It helps us out a lot. So again, you can find us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Podcasts, or any of those podcast choices out there. And like I said, we do have a Facebook group, which will allow you to discuss the podcast there. Also, the name of that group is Movies That Failed at the Box Office or with Cinema, and you'll see the logo of Fantasy Picks in there. And usually I'm in there, and some of the guys are in there, and and sometimes we'll talk. All right, so Mark, where can I find you?
That's very easy. All you have to do is go to piratecarentertainment.com. I'm on Pounds to Pixels podcast and on Adrenaline Cinema podcast.
There we go. And Frank, in what location can they find you this week?
Apparently, I live under a bridge in Miami, and I have a sign that says, "We'll podcast for clicks." No, you can find me here on Fantasy Movie Picks.
Fantasy Picks Movie Edition. He always changes it. I'm gonna have to give him a sign.
You know what? The funny thing is, it's right here on the screen. Fantasy Picks Movie
Edition.
It is. All right. And also, I sometimes appear on Panels to Pixel.
There we go, man. So, all right, guys. Thank you very much for listening, and thank you for sticking around. And we'll see you guys next time. Next time, we're going to do one of our drafts, and our next one is going to be on film composers. So, for those of you who want to listen, definitely look out for that. That should be a fun one. We should have actually on that one, we're probably going to have a full house, because everybody for some reason really wants to be in that one, which is great. But yeah, so we'll catch you guys next time. Thank you so much, and keep going to the movies and hopefully watching good movies. Take care, guys.
Bye-bye.
Bye.